That's right. Week 4 NCAA, Week 3 NFL. Welcome back to the Anonymous Gambler Podcast. My name is...
It doesn't matter what your name is!
Absolutely, and we are incredibly excited to be here. Listen, we have 2 segments today. 1, Fun with Fuhrmy, and 2, Romer the Philadelphia Homer. Fuhrmy's going over some NCAA, and Romes is going to go over some of his NFL picks, try to get off that 0-3 little streak that he had there last week. Listen, we hope you enjoy the podcast. Please be sure to click, like, share, and subscribe. We're going to try to get this on iTunes sooner or later, as soon as I can find someone to help me out. But until we do so, please continue to share this, and we appreciate every single listener that we have out there. So, without further ado, let's get it right into NCAA and have our Fun with Fuhrmy segment for Week 4 NCAA. In with Fuhrmy now, our Fun with Fuhrmy segment. Back on the podcast, 2-1 week, almost pulled out a perfect 3-0. Fuhrmy sitting right now at 5-4, starting to build a little steam. Fuhrmy, how you feeling?
Feeling pretty good, Goose. Thanks for having me back, of course.
We have to have you back. You're the only one that's winning right now. Listen, what an incredible slate last week. I mean, Mizzou almost came through at the end there. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me about your last week's picks and what you thought you got right, what you thought you got wrong, and what was just something that just came out of your control and it just, didn't work your way.
All right, so love the Vandy pick. They actually almost pulled it out and beat Notre Dame straight up. So they had the ball late with a chance to win. The Gators covered, which was also nice. And Mizzou was so frustrating to watch. I think they led by 14 2 different times and were well on their way to covering. And the thing that I will sort of chalk up to out of my control, their stud wideout was benched for about half of the game, and nobody really knows why. I think it was just sort of attitude or misconduct. And he started hot. That came back in for their final drive and sort of helped them get down the field to win it at the buzzer. So if he would have played the whole game, I really think they would have covered, to be completely honest. They were a completely different team when he was on the field.
I was watching that game. I was texting you the whole day. We've been picking a lot of the same teams. I was wrong about that. I don't know if I was necessarily wrong about Army and Hawaii. Hawaii had a chance there to get a touchdown on the board at the end of the game and didn't get it. And if that would have went to overtime, that's most likely going to go over. That Texas Tech Houston game was over 1 minute into the second half. And that UMass FIU game was over 4 minutes into the second half, into the third quarter. Those were the kind of reads that we were looking for. Ones that we've played consistently, ones that we've, looked at these teams, played them a couple weeks, maybe sat back, didn't play them, and watched them. And now I look at your picks for this week, and I'm starting from the top down, and I'm a little bit confused. I'm not going to lie. I like your picks, but I have some questions. And the first one is Georgia at Mizzou. You're going the other way that you did last week, and I'm going to play a contrarian side to it, but I want to know what you're thinking with this pick that you're going to put on the board here.
All right, so the over-under, I think, sitting right now is 64. Both teams have big play offenses. The lowest total each team has scored thus far this year is 40 points. So all signs point to an offensive game. Honestly, it feels like a trap to me. Georgia's defense is really good. They're 7th in yards per game. So I think they're going to be a defense that can actually contain Drew Luck. I was all over Drew Lock last week, and he had a big game against Purdue. I think Georgia's going to give him a lot of problems. Missouri's biggest weakness is defense, of course, and that was showcased last week as well, as Purdue just shredded them. But I think Jake Fromm spreads the ball around a lot, rarely turns it over, and has a very good running game to lean on. So I think Georgia gets up early, grinds the clock, doesn't give up enough big plays to allow Missouri to score. And I'm going to take the under here, under 64.
Wow.
Feels like a trap. I feel like the over is a trap, and that's why I'm going against it.
Here's a fun fact. The season stats on Georgia's offense, 45, ranks 19th. Their defense, 3rd, with giving up 8 points an average of 8 points for this entire season. Now, that's Austin Peay, South Carolina, and Middle Tennessee State. You're not concerned at all. You don't have any worry about, I'm trying to, it's sitting at 64.5. So I'm trying to formulate a number in my head. What do you think that Georgia puts up? You think they put up over 42?
I don't. I think that I'm going to put the final score in the neighborhood of 35-24 Georgia.
Wow.
And that gets me to 59, a little cushion. I mean, it could be 35-27. It could be 38-24. I still think I have some room there. And I feel like if it's going to hit the over, it's going to be Drew Lock just sort of getting some garbage touchdowns, garbage points. I bet you if this over hits, it's going to be late in the game. I don't think it's a shootout. I don't.
I was wondering if Georgia were going to pull up. I was watching that Middle Tennessee State game, and they did not. Maybe Middle Tennessee doesn't have, obviously, what Mizzou might have. But you would have thought maybe, like you said, a garbage touchdown would have came through, because I believe that hit the under for last week too for Georgia. I don't believe. Let me look at that final number as I'm scrolling here. I'm moving between screens. No, that over-under ended at 60, and so it was 49-7. And so, you put one more on the board, but they didn't give it up. So maybe you're right, Fuhrmy. I don't know. You know me, I'm not an under player, but that's an interesting pick. That's a stark contrast to what you felt last week, and I understand that Purdue has a different defense than Mizzou, Georgia does, but it's at Mizzou. Does that have any impact on the game? This game last year was 53-28, and Mizzou just got smoked in that game last year. Is there a chance that Georgia opens this up like that early, and then then it just becomes just a boat race?
Yeah, I mean it's possible. The other big thing, I picked against Georgia early this year. I thought South Carolina could put up some points on them. It was at South Carolina. They played them tough last year. And Georgia just literally steamrolled. That was a Vegas just meltdown when we were out there. That was just not fun to watch on the South Carolina side. So I'm sort of putting that in the back of my memory, and I'm going the other way. I think Georgia is too tough defensively, and I think they can just contain Locke. They're not going to stop him. I do think they can contain him.
That's interesting. I'm going to go on my own play. Of course, I have overs because I just love them. I've been seeing a lot. A lot of people have been on Mizzou. A lot of people have been on Purdue. I'm going to jump on a different train. I'm going to go back to the Big 12. I'm kind of impressed with Baylor right now, and I'm kind of impressed with Kansas. And Kansas, they're sitting at 116th in passing, but they have a really, really good running back, and they're sitting at 34th. They're scoring about 36 points a game, and they're giving up only about 15. But look who they played. They played Nicholls State, they played Central Michigan, and they played Rutgers. Their strength of schedule is 118th. You look at Baylor, passing offense 16th, rushing offense 74th. Their rushing defense is 89th. And then they're giving up 29 points on average. But, I mean, their strength of schedule, look who they played. They played Abilene Christian, 20 points. Abilene Christian put up 20 points in the first half. UTSA puts up 20 points. Duke, who's not even known for their offense. I understand that they got a defensive score, but still, they still put up 40 points on the board. This over has been dropping about the weather. I don't know if the weather is going to impact out there in Mizzou, so that might play into your under. I'm not sure. There was a potential chance for a little bit of rain down there in Waco, but I'm going to pay a little extra juice. It was at 55.5, put it up to 120 and put it down to 55. Give me the over in this game. I think this is a 35-24 game, just like you predicted with that Georgia and Mizzou game. I think that's the same exact score for this Kansas-Baylor game. And I won't take the side, but give me Baylor. I'll take Baylor. I think Matt Rule is changing that program. I think he walked into a literal crap show with what Bryles left. And so I think that this team is starting to get a little bit of rhythm. And, confidence goes a long way in college football. And I think both teams are riding high right now. I think that there's going to be some points on the board, and then I think Baylor kind of runs away with it. But I'm going to take the other side here away from you. because I just refuse to cheer for an under for me. Unless you're betting it, I'll cheer for your unders. I will say that.
Very good. So Kansas, I think, has 3 either defensive or special team touchdowns already this year. So they're scoring on both sides of the ball, which is, I know, weak opponents, but they're putting up points on both sides, which definitely plays into your over.
Well, you talk about defense. I don't think we can transition any better. We have had a really good look at Vanderbilt the past couple weeks. And, you were on them both ways. You said under, and I also, you almost called that score perfectly. You're like, 20 points wins this game for Notre Dame. Boom. And to be honest with you, you're correct. I mean, if it wasn't for a strip fumble in, at the 1 yard line, Vanderbilt could have, without a doubt, potentially won that game. But now you're going back to an old favorite that you went 2 weeks in a row against Vanderbilt. Now I'm curious, are you selling on Vandy, and are you going back home to the South Carolina Gamecocks there for me?
All right. So this one, I sort of am selling on Vandy. I think last week's loss was really devastating. I mean, they had multiple opportunities to win. I think they had 2 turnovers in their own end zone, and they had the ball late with a chance to win down 5. All they needed was put 6 more on the board, and they would have won outright. So I think they come out flat this week. I think they're sort of dwelling on last week's loss. They could easily be 3-0. And South Carolina, and this is a big note, South Carolina just got trucked by Georgia 2 weeks ago, got canceled last week because of the hurricane. So they've been dwelling on a 2-week loss, and it wasn't just a loss, it was a throttling against an SEC East opponent. I think they come out fired up. It is at Vandy. The line is sitting at -2 South Carolina. So I think South Carolina covers. I don't think it's far-fetched for them to win by a field goal late in the game. So I'm going to take South Carolina to win on the road -2.
Who is it Samuels? Is that South Carolina's wide receiver? Is that their big outside wide receiver? Is that his last name?
Yes, Debo Samuels.
Samuels. I don't know if anyone on Vanderbilt's side of the ball can contain him. I really don't. I mean, they've looked good, but I mean, we saw that Nevada was exposed last week against Oregon State. We talked about that overhitting later throughout the course of the day, and it did. And I just think that you are 100% correct. I don't think there's much of a home field advantage in Nashville for Vanderbilt. And also, I think that just if this was like 2 weeks or if this was like a sandwich game, it might be a little bit different for them. But being that close in Notre Dame and almost winning and then coming, and now, like you said, South Carolina is coming in and is just going to be amped to play. The only thing I disagree with you is I don't think this is within a 3-point game. I think this is a 2-score game, in my opinion, at least. I think South Carolina is really going to shut them down because I have not seen anything that leads me to believe that Vanderbilt can really put up points. I mean, they put them up against 2 garbage teams, realistically, if you think of Nevada and Middle Tennessee State. But then they get in there against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's offense is abysmal. True or false? South Carolina.
I talked about that last week. I think Notre Dame is overrated at this point in the year.
You did say that.
They fine against Michigan, but I'm telling you, I don't think Michigan's great either, and we talked about this on last week's episode.
True or false? South Carolina has a better offense than Notre Dame.
I think that's true. I honestly do. It's really hard to judge that after the first 3 weeks because Georgia really made them look bad. But I think Georgia is that good. And we just talked about this against Missouri. Georgia's D's for real. And South Carolina looked great against Coastal. I know that's not the same type of opponent that they're facing this week in Vanderbilt. But South Carolina has enough playmakers to really cause a problem for Vandy. And they have it at every level. They have a good quarterback. They have a good running back. They have a great receiver. So they're going to give Vandy fits, I think.
I think that's probably, looking at your plays, that's probably my most favorite play. I'm going to stay down there in the Carolinas. I sent you my picks. I'm going to ride out this Coastal Carolina team. I really think getting their head coach back was really important for them. Kilton Anderson's had a nice season, 32 of 45 for 460 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. They're playing UL-Lafayette. And Andre Nunez, 40 of 51, 408 yards, 3 touchdowns. Coastal Carolina, 2 strong backs, Marcus Outlaw and Torrance Marable, combined 535 and 7 touchdowns. Coastal is 21st in rushing right now. And if you look at UL's offense, I understand they have Trey Regis. He's got 197 yards. He's averaging about 9 yards a carry. He's only got one touchdown, but he's got a long one. It's for 47 yards. These two defenses, I think the misconception, and I was actually looking at some of your other picks, so I'm going to bring this up here to softball this. You had potentially talked about taking the under in the SMU and Navy game. And I read your write-up about that it's, you think Navy's going to grind the ball out and that, that triple option is strong and it's notorious for running down clock. And the only reason that I didn't go with the over in that game, and the reason that I'm going to go over 64 in Coastal UL-Lafayette is I don't think the weather is going to impact this game at all. I think Coastal is coming off an early victory. They moved their game against Campbell the week before. They had a little bit more prep time. I am going to actually go against a rushing offense. A team that strongly rushes the ball is more likely to have an under because these guys break open plays and they score. You know what I mean? They can get more consistency. In my opinion, right now, the way that a lot of these run pass options are going, these guys go, I had said this word with Rome's, they dink and dunk. Okay. And so they get these short little passes, but then they get these 6, 7, 8 yard runs, and then they get these big breakaway runs, and they build and they build and they build, and then they go deep, and it opens up the top of the defense. Opens off the top for the offense against the defense. Coastal Carolina, 110th in rush defense. UL, 120th. Give me the over in this game. I'm going to stay away from that SMU Navy game. I'm just going to let the weather do what it's going to do and cheer for the mids. But I will definitely go over 64 for Coastal Carolina and UL-Lafayette and try to get that Sunbelt points on the board here because you know what? I've heard a couple of guys say this, guys on the ESPN podcast and a couple other podcasts. Hey, it doesn't matter what the ticket looks like. They all cash the same when they're a winner.
That's a very good point, and that's all we're looking for, aren't we?
Well, we are, and before we get to your last pick, I'm it may sound like I'm critical. I'm just questioning. You're actually taking the biggest points that you've taken all year, and you're getting them against a machine. You need to. I'm not actually going to put this one out there. You need to tell everyone who you're taking and why you're taking it. And I think I read it might be one of your favorite games of the weekend.
Yeah, I do. I really like it, and I'm going to be probably on the non-money side of this bet more often than not. But I like Texas A&M plus 26 at Bama, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to cut right to the chase. Texas A&M, and this is the stat that really turned me on to this game. Texas A&M is 6th in the nation in time of possession, averaging 36 minutes a game. So they have the ball a lot. And if you can be a possession-oriented team against Bama and shorten that game, that is a huge thing in your favor. By no means do I think Texas A&M is going to win this game. I think they can cover 26. The only thing I really, really don't like is that it's in Bama. It's in Tuscaloosa. Texas A&M they played Clemson, who is the same style of football team as Bama. I don't think they're nearly as good as Bama this year. They've been just dominant. Tua has been as good as advertised, probably even exceeding his expectations. But I do think with a solid running game, they have Travion Williams. He is a very physical runner. He leads the SEC in rushing. And Kellen Mond has been great as a true sophomore. Definitely better than I was anticipating. But I think Texas A&M with the points, they cover Bama with 26 points. That is a lot to give a top 25 team.
It's even dropped down to 25.5, but I'm going to give you the 26. I'm going to put that in there at that. That is such an intriguing game. Like you wouldn't think Alabama just smoked Ole Miss this past weekend. And is this one of those, we don't have to do that again. That one was that maybe that one's personal. You know what I mean? I'm not sure exactly. I'm not a huge Bama fan. I can say that you have truly educated me the past couple weeks on the SEC because I paid just a little bit more attention to it. I didn't used to. And looking at this Texas A&M team, under Jimbo Fisher, this thing has changed. Like, I'm not saying I'm completely sold on it right now, Fuhrmy, but if there's let's go with the negative. Let's not go with what they do right. What's the mistake that Texas A&M could do that would then ultimately change this game, and you're looking in the third quarter going, oh God, there's no way this is getting ugly.
I mean, if they start slow and go 3 and out the first 2 or 3 possessions, I honestly think the game's over. They have to start, and I don't want to say start fast, meaning they got to go down and score a touchdown. I think they have to at least be respectable and get first downs just to get some confidence. Going into Alabama, into Tuscaloosa, it needs to happen where they just need to grind it out a little bit. And if they can get out of the first quarter down 10-3, I really like my chances because they're just going to hang around.
Here's a question for you, and this one kind of has me just a little bit curious. Texas A&M just gave Clemson a barn burner a couple weeks ago, right? That was 2 weeks ago. Or was that 1 or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Do they have enough energy to do it again?
Yeah, because it's a conference game. I don't think they have a choice, right? Like this is really the start of their conference season, and this is the biggest game of their whole season, to be honest. So they got to be respectable. I think they can get into a solid bowl game if they can take down Auburn or LSU and really give Bama a fight. I think they're going to be good.
You know, Texas A&M, they went into the locker room 14-3 against Clemson, and then put up 10 and 13. I mean, they played the whole game tough. Fuhrmy, you might be onto something, because I'll tell you what, a lot of people are, they're looking at Clemson and Bama as the top, undoubtedly the top 2 teams in the country, and I think Bama is undoubtedly better than Clemson, but I don't think that Alabama is a 26-point better team than Clemson would have been, because the line was like 12 or something like that with Texas A&M. Right. So. Yeah. I mean, you're adding another 2 scores on top of that. I kind of agree with you. I wouldn't take it, only because Bama does scare me. It's one of those ones like, it's 35-7, then all of a sudden it's 42-7, and you're like, and it just goes right out the door. You know what I mean?
Bama's closest margin of victory this year was 37 against Louisville. So they've covered the spread 3 times. All signs point to Bama, and that's exactly why I think Texas A&M. I think the lines get spread even wider when they display that kind of offense and defense 3 consecutive weeks.
I'm it's growing on me. I'm not going to go with it the whole way, but it's growing. I want to see this one. I want to see this one play out. Listen, you give me the games on this side of the country. I'm giving you one down there in Arkansas. But it is not actually the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's Arkansas State. I'm taking you back to the Sun Belt. You're going to inform me about the SEC. I'm going to inform you about the Sun Belt. I'm also bringing some Mountain West into this. I want you to remember these 2 names, okay? Armani Rogers, Lexington Thomas, Justice Hansen, Warren Wand. That is UNLV's quarterback running back and Arkansas State's quarterback running back. These 4 gentlemen are going to light the scoreboard up. I understand that, Arkansas State just went into Tulsa. It was kind of a low and slow game. They did have a good defensive battle. They got smoked by Bama a couple weeks ago. They went back to their home base. When they play out of conference, they do really well. And UNLV right now, this Armani Rogers and Lexington Thomas. Armani Rogers is putting up points. He's got 6 touchdowns through the air. He's got 5 touchdowns running. Justice Hansen has 7 touchdowns in the air. They have 4 backs. 4 that they rotate in, and that old Gus Malzahn offense, that run pass option that they do. It's almost like a jet sweep is what they run. And you have 4 backs with over 100 yards, and one of them is your quarterback. You have Warren Wand, Armin Weiwei, and Marcel Murray. This over-under started at 68.5, and dropped down to 67. I love the over. I don't think there's going to be any defense in this game. This is another one. This is like a 41-38. 41-31 type game. I mean, this is points on the board. It's at 7 o'clock. It's going to be, hopefully they'll put it on, I think it's on ESPN3, so you might be able to watch it on your dual screen while you're watching the big games on television. But Fuhrmy, I'm bringing the small conferences here. You've got a lock on the SEC. You have some good reads. I'm trying to get a 3-0 week. I want it. Neither of us have had a 3-0 week, and I'm like aching for it. And I feel as though my 3 overs this week, I know they're a little bit spread out and they're a little bit all over the board, but I feel this is the chance. This is the chance. And I'm telling you, this is a sneak game. Take that over 67 Arkansas State UNLV.
I love that you're all over the mid-majors. I love it.
You have to. I think that's where the value is. I'm gonna steal a Yanders line. That's where the value is. You know, you're always looking to see like what markets are not being played that much that people lose track of it. And then what I really do is I really stay away from the small mid majors that catch steam and then it goes too far one way or the other, like over, or you know their points are too far. I got to stay away from them. I want to follow the teams that don't have enough attention drawn to them so that there's still some hidden value, because they're not the lines are not appropriately adjusted for them. And since I don't think that you do, and I know that I do not do power ratings or any of that other stuff, I'm just looking at strictly like, now it's time to make the shift to conference play. And I understand that, you know, only two out of 3 games are within conference play. I think that the Baylor-Kansas game, without a doubt, these guys have played each other, and I think that there's a revamped offense in Baylor, and Kansas State is getting confidence, which is good. I think the Sun Belt, the Coastal Carolina with their coach back, I think they're going to start getting and clicking more and more and more because they're bowl eligible this year. And then finally Arkansas State, who, you know, is still a contender to win the Sun Belt down there, and UNLV, who's sitting there going, you know what, we have a chance here. Out here in the Mountain West, we have a chance to compete and get to a better bowl than what we had. I just like those chances. I like those odds for these teams to put a big one up on the board, whether it's the first actual conference game or getting ready to get into conference games, which is what excites me. So I'm ready for a big weekend here. What's our minute mark? Hold on, I got to make sure I put this so I can remember. Okay, so we're at 26:30. Let's run through our gambler on the go here. Fuhrmy is sitting with a under 64 on Georgia and Mizzou. He also has South Carolina -2 over Vanderbilt and Texas A&M +26 over Alabama. I just said I'm going over 55, and I bought juice on that to take that over for Kansas and Baylor. I have over 64 for Coastal Carolina and UL-Lafayette, and then I also have over 67 for UNLV at Arkansas State. Fuhrmy, I saw that you had one more game that you were interested in, kind of an off-the-board one that we're not going to count as a pick, but I want to hear what you're thinking. You know, you want to talk about this one real quick?
Yeah, real quick. So, actually, I got 2, so let me give them to you real quick.
I love it.
I like Nebraska at Michigan. Nebraska's +17.5. And I would not place this bet until I know the quarterback situation. If Adrian Martinez plays, it's a lock. I love that pick. Even though he's a true freshman, he's going to keep them in games. And we already talked about Michigan. I just don't think they're going to live up to expectations this year. And then the other one is a little bit sneaky. I like Arizona at Washington. Arizona State at Washington. They're also -7. Well, they're +17.5. And my big takeaway here is Herm Edwards. He is going to play to win the game.
Oh my God!
So I like them to cover. He brings a pro-style offense, of course, into the game. He doesn't mind grinding it out. He doesn't care if he has to score 28 to win the game or 10 to win the game. He's literally gonna use his advantage in any way he can. And I think they stay close. Jake Browning has not been the Jake Browning of 2 years ago. He's been the Jake Browning of last year, and I just think Washington's not quite as good as I thought they were going to be. Outstanding.
Hey, I'm ready for a big weekend here, and I just I talked to Rooms before. I'm kind of doing an ipso facto on this, so I talked to him, and I'm going to switch it around. But I want to let you know that we're getting ready for a big weekend here next weekend, where we're all coming together and going to get some spins on that roulette wheel in the hotel for me.
Let's do it. I can't wait.
Stay on the line here for me. I'm going to close it out here. Give me 1 second. Absolutely phenomenal and great insight, as always, by Fuhrmy with our Fun with Fuhrmy segment. Hey, listen, let's transition right into the NFL Week 3 with Romer, the Philadelphia Homer. Romer, the Philadelphia Homer. He'd better get married so he can have some money, because he went 0-3 last week and doesn't have a pot to piss in. Rome's, what happened last week?
Thanks for having me, Goose. Last week, hopefully will prove to be an anomaly. Maybe I had the wedding on my brain. Maybe I didn't. Either way, I went 0-3. I think that brings me to sub 500 for the year, but I'll be on my way back with picks this week and be on the alert for picks wedding weekend specials coming up next week.
Way sub 500. You're sitting at 2-5 right now. You need to get off the schneid and get back going. Are you going to stick with your homer rallying cry here, or are we going to try something different this week? Maybe to get somewhere, I don't know, in the W column.
The W column would be great, but I am going to change my strategy just a little bit.
I like it.
I am going to stay true to form and be the homer that I am.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, this week there's 3 games I want to focus on. First, what state do we live in?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, you mean Pennsylvania. Yes, we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and the return of Carson Wentz against Andrew Luck and the Colts.
I'm sorry. I had no idea you were going to do that, and that was a perfect setup. So what I'm looking at right now is that your Philadelphia Eagles are sitting at home, and currently they are resting at -6.5. Are you getting? Are you going to take them with the full 6.5 here?
What you're going to see this weekend is an inspired Birds team with Carson Wentz at the helm. I think the Eagles absolutely trounce the Colts. They win by 2 touchdowns. Pick of the week. Take the Birds to cover.
What about Andrew Luck? He didn't play half bad. Their defense did what they were supposed to. The Redskins were favored last week and did not come through, and the Colts came out as an outright underdog. Philadelphia looked abysmal in the offensive side of the ball, and I understand that's a different quarterback, but there was no sync, there was no rhythm. They were exposed. Everything that you had said last week about their secondary, Deshaun Jackson on the first play of the game exposed them and opened them wide open, and it was like they were in a horse race they could never compete with the entire game. Now, I understand they're back in Philadelphia, and having that home environment in Philadelphia is undoubtedly ominous. But in that same breath, you of all people know that if Wentz comes out and does not play to the expectation levels that are there in Philadelphia right now, that crowd will turn hostile. So if that happens, are they going to start having a little quarterback controversy? Are they going to flip-flop and maybe put Foles back in?
I listen to a lot of local sports talk radio, and that's been the topic of conversation for 9 months since he's been working on his knee. And, the bottom line is he was going to win the MVP award last season if he stayed healthy. No question, no, hands down, no questions asked. He was the MVP of the league until he got hurt. Not only is he the physical, he's the mental, and he's the athletic leader of that team. They trust in Wentz as I do. He will, for the next 10 to 15 years, be the Philadelphia quarterback.
Jesus.
No controversy.
Oh, man, that is even out here in Pittsburgh, I can't even, when they drafted Roethlisberger back in 2004, we were hopeful, but you're just outkicking your coverage right now, my friend. You are outkicking your coverage to come in this hard after an 0-3 week, and you're going to give everyone 6.5. They got to cover a full touchdown here against the Colts, who are going to low and slow them potentially to death. This thing might be 10-7 going into halftime. Either way, and you're going to expect them to put up a full 7 at the end of the game. Is the defense going to put this up? Are they going to put one up on the board this week to help him out at the very beginning? Maybe somewhere in there, catch rhythm. The hometown crowd gets a little loud. Maybe a little misread by Luck. Something. I don't agree with you that Wentz can do it by himself. So I'm going to point to the only other place that I know of Philadelphia that has a little bit of strength, even though they were exposed last week, which is their defense. Am I wrong or am I right in that assumption?
You're totally right. I'd say there's been 2 themes of the year so far. I think Nick Foles has not performed nearly to the Super Bowl caliber that he was at. And, by by all stretches, that was an historic run by a quarterback. He just had the hot hand at the right time. I think what you're seeing is a pretty average quarterback who got hot, and that's playing out this year. And so that's been the first theme of the season for the Eagles. The second theme is the defense has been an absolute letdown. We thought we'd put a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. We're not doing that. Jalen Mills is they call him the Green Goblin here in Pennsylvania, is an absolute disaster, torched by Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, you name it. I am concerned if he's matched up against T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton has a monster advantage. Yeah, T.Y. actually might be a smart fantasy play for those IDPers, but or DFSers. But I am concerned about the defense. I do think the emotional lift of Wentz rallies the troops and on all three phases of the game, and I think the defense finally gets off the schneid here and puts up a number or slows Luck and T.Y. down.
Well, I, like everyone else who is listening, or if there's anyone left as we talk about this, because I'm sure we put everyone to sleep talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, needs another winner, Romes. We need something else that's on the board. So what do you got cooking in your brain over there?
Yeah, so my next two I'm going to go with, I'm staying away from the Saints, who've been absolutely abysmal, but I still like them to turn around to get over 9.5 wins. And I'm going to stay away from the G-Men. If you've watched any football this year for the New York Football Giants, you know Eli looks like Eli of like the worst version of Eli with that stupid looking face.
You did text me that. It was
Yeah.
He was awful last week. It was atrocious. It was absolutely and totally atrocious.
He's atrocious, and that offensive line is wasting away the talent of Saquon Barkley and the ability for Eli to get the ball to his playmakers. Eli isn't doing himself any favors. He can't move an inch in the pocket, and it's killing them. But that offensive line is their Achilles, and I just don't see how it's going to improve for the rest of the year.
Okay, so we dropped the Saints and we dropped the G-Men. Where are we going?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the hot hand. One of the big storylines of the year so far. I'm going to go with Patty Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs at home against Jimmy G. They're going to cover, I believe it's 6.5. I think at Arrowhead, that's a tough environment for a young quarterback in Garoppolo. I think Mahomes has the hot hand. He's got the weapons. Andy Reid's going to have those boys ready to roll, and I think they win by a touchdown.
That is, and there's a big number on that over-under, 55.5. That's a huge number. No one would have ever expected that out of San Francisco and Kansas City a couple years ago. I mean, I understand that, your boy Andy, you're still being a little bit of a homer because Andy Reid's out there in Kansas City. But I understand they can score, but them in San Francisco to put up 55.5 points. Mahomes, came in a little under the radar. They did the right thing, sat him. They put him in. I think he looks good. I'm not going to be biased towards him because he is a Texas Tech guy, but I mean, that's all he did in college was throw. He hucked and chucked all over the Steelers last week. I mean, they were in disarray. They could not stop him at all. And then you throw in the fact that they have Kelsey, they have Tyreek Hill, they have Kareem Hunt, and they're just, they just move and they dink and dunk and then they can just absolutely and totally smother you deep. It's unbelievable. I'm curious as to that actually doesn't look horrible in my opinion. Not that everything is. I'm just shooting from the hip here because I'm not really a big NFL guy. But San Francisco is coming off a nice win, and they did kind of let up a little bit there at the end against Detroit because they were up so much. But that in Arrowhead at 1:00, that'll be an interesting game. That is I was not expecting that, but I think that's a pretty good pick. I have a thought on that at the end, but I want to hear your last one before I give my thought on these two games. Go ahead.
All right, the last one, I'm going to ride another hot hand. And a team that, probably didn't have as much expectation or as hype as they should. But, boy, they've been in some primetime games, and they look good, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to take the Chicago Bears against the Arizona Cardinals. The line is the Bears favored by 5.5 on the road. I also think they win by a touchdown and cover the spread.
I would not touch that with someone else's money. If there's one thing that I've learned, it is not betting road favorites in the NFL. That is a tough sell. Why are you leaning towards the Bears? What has made you so confident in them? I understand that Arizona has looked abysmal. Okay, that's in column A. Okay, but let's go to what is selling you on the Bears that is making you say, yeah, they're going to cover by a touchdown, 6 points or a touchdown.
Yeah, so I think most people would say, well, it's Khalil Mack and that defense, and they look, and it's true, they look good. He's getting after the quarterback. He's applying pressure in the secondary. The rest of his teammates are benefiting. But what I've been really impressed with and watching a little bit of their games, I think Trubisky is the real deal. I think he's got command of that offense. I think he has starting to form a bond with Allen Robinson, the old Penn State grad. I think he's got some weapons in the backfield with Cohen. And I just see him being able to consistently put up points week to week. And I see their defense as being pretty solid.
I could see a double 6-point teaser either way. So with any of these three teams, because I wouldn't take the Bears. I personally would take, if I were to do this, if I were to play an NFL game this weekend, I would take a 6-point teaser. I would put the Eagles down, and I would put Kansas City down to a 0.5 point each to go for the win, basically. No ties, which two of them have happened 2 weeks in a row, so who even knows? But what would be your 2 out of 3 if you were to tease 2 out of 3 games down for 6 points? What's your 1, 2, and 3 most confident in your games?
Yeah, that's a good question, Goose. I'm going to ride with the home team. I think the Birds are my pick of the week. That's where I'm the most confident. I think second, I would place the Chiefs at home. I think that's a tough environment. I think they win that game. And then third, I'd put the Bears, the road favorite.
Well, and not bad. We'll see if we can get you back up here. I don't want everyone to think that I'm such a pessimist with you, but we got to see some production here. It's a results league and it's a result pick league for us. But I'm curious. You had talked to me about throwing a college pick out there. We're sitting on a Thursday night. There's a game tonight. There's 3 tomorrow. One of them I know is one of your teams. Are you going to put in a play for tomorrow, or do you have a play for Saturday that you're interested in? Did I lose you? Did you fall off the train in Paoli? What just happened?
Not yet. That might be next week. But college, the interesting thing this week is your Penn State Nittany Lions, I believe, are playing on Friday night.
Indeed.
Against the Illinois Fighting Illini. The line is 28 points.
It's down to 27.5 right now. Over-under is at 60.
That is such a huge number. I'm going to take the under, and I'm not going to touch the spread there. I think that's a crazy number on the spread. Illinois is 2-1. Penn State's 3-0. Penn State has been slow to get out of the gates, especially in the first half. And I don't truly like – if I would take one side of that spread, I think I would take Illinois plus the points. But I don't want to do that and root against my team. So I'm going to go with the under for the Penn State Nittany Lions.
Under 60. So we have 4 picks from you this week. We have the Philadelphia Eagles -6.5. We have the Kansas City Chiefs -6.5. We have the Chicago Bears -5.5, and under 60 points for Penn State and Illinois. Rome's, if you go 4-0, you're gonna be sitting pretty. You can put faith back in all who believe in you. In more than just your personality, for sure. So this is your chance, bud. I'm rooting for you. I will be serious. I'm definitely rooting for you. I want you to pull a 4-0 weekend.
It's inevitable. It's coming. And if you believe that you bet black and roulette, and the next spin's going to be red. This is the time to bet on Romer, the Philadelphia Homer.
I'm gonna see how my plays go on Saturday. I might have to follow you. I will text with you. Hang on the line here, buddy. I'm gonna close this out. All right.
All right.
That was an absolutely fantastic super show with Fuhrmy and with Romer, the Philadelphia Homer. We have 1 week left to the big wedding. We're very excited for it. But before we get there, let's get some wins this weekend. Everyone, have a safe weekend. Best of luck to you. And as always, do not bet money that you do not have.